if you want to achieve something great, if you want to go far, right? If you don't want to go somewhere fast, but you want to go somewhere far, you need to go with a group. You need to go with a team. There's strength in numbers. And when you're able to work with people who are able to fill in the gaps of where you might have certain weaknesses with their strengths, you can achieve so much more. And I think that's also what's so beautiful about what you mentioned with the defining story. Is like Dennis was late, but Norma was early. So it's like that balances it out, right? And then Dennis has some sort of strength that Norma might not have a strength, and then that will balance it out, you know? So that's super important when it comes to anything, is being able to work with people. And that's something that I've like struggled to learn. I don't know if it's because I'm an only child or what it was, but for me, I've been very independent my entire life. And through seeing you guys and what you're doing, and through my own experiences of starting JD Creations and working on the creator community, something that I'm learning and that I'm slowly becoming better and better at is becoming a team player, being someone that works with other people and also brings out the best in other people. I think that's also super important. And from my experience of working with you, I think that's also something that you do so well, Bongani, is whenever you're on a set and you're directing someone, you bring out the best in that person, right? And I think that's, for me, that's like a secret sauce that you've managed to get in terms of your content. But in terms of the other content out there, right? Whether it be defining, whether it be like you work with a whole bunch of influencers and you're constantly putting out stories on multiple different platforms, whatever content you're putting out there, what would you say is your secret sauce to make sure that that content offers the most possible value out there or achieves whatever goal you're setting out to achieve?
That's a nice question. Hey, that's a nice question. I love it when one thing for sure is that when a person comes to me, that the first thing that I would say is that people must come with an open mind. That's the first thing, that when you go and work with someone else, you're not going there to be a dictator. You're going there to put your mind and then like sort of like to collaborate. That's the best thing that I always do, is that, for example, I know my creators most of the time, and I would understand their weaknesses. I would understand what they're afraid of and what they need help in. For example, now, when a person is coming to me for a, like, let's say now, the YouTube, let's say, for example, I have Nozibele Mayaba. She's a very great YouTuber. And whenever there's an ad involved and she needs like creative direction, she will tell me like, listen, as much as I do my own content, I need creative direction on this. And you quote me on creative direction also, and also this. Like, they understand the level of like communication that needs to be clear, because now the first thing is knowing each other's weaknesses, because that's the best thing ever. You're able to protect one another. For example, with me, I know most of the time when we are there as a defining team, I know they've got my back, and I know that I can say something, they'll always have my back regardless. So you know that when it comes to collaboration, the best thing is that you sit down as a team and then you know each other's weaknesses, and it becomes the best thing, because now when you start shooting content, it becomes easier to say, hey, I know you're not best in terms of presenting, but you are best when it comes to dancing. And it becomes a skill that you develop over time to understand what is the best, best skill to apply whenever someone comes to you, and you'll know this person can shoot like proper skills. So give them the opportunity to excel in what they like do. You can't say a person now comes to you and say, hey man, I want to shoot stills. The next thing they're doing video. That means you're setting them up for failure. So it's more on understanding what the type of person you're working with. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, I think mainly, establishing boundaries, as much as it might sound like it's not like a good thing, but it's one of the best things that I've learned to sort of like grow within this space, because now, as much as you're able to say, Bongani, you are my videographer, there's certain elements that I need to allow the person who I'm working with to do their best. If the person for that day has been allocated to be the producer, I can't mingle in their business to say, hey man, like, I think you should be producing this way, you should be doing that way. You need to trust your teammates. You need to trust your team to say, hey, listen, I respect your boundary at this moment. And if you want your stuff like this, you know the final product. As much as I might not like get it at that time, And I know very well with creators, the biggest problem is not seeing the final product. I might have this big idea, but the secondary person might not see this idea. So I have to follow through that idea and being able to understand this is my boundary, this is where I'm at this moment. So it makes it easy to say, hey, listen, as much as there's this, I love to do this, but here's a boundary. Bongani, you're the DOP at this moment, or Bongani, you're the producer, or Bongani, you're the photographer. As long as we know how to respect those boundaries, it's much easier. And then the third thing I would say, keep everything authentic. As much as like we'd like to be this lavish team, if there's a problem and you don't like on how I do things, or I'm late on delivery, you have to tell me, hey, Bongani, you know on how we are as creatives. I'm supposed to deliver a video at 6 p.m. Then 6 p.m. passes, I haven't delivered. That's the thing. We need to communicate that to say, hey, Bongani, 6 o'clock, what's going on? Like, we need to be clear. So that's the thing about creative. There's that professionalism needs to be the umbrella. Besides now, everything what's going on, that friendship develops over time for sure. But the professionalism still needs to be there. The thing that I like about also, sorry, I'll keep on mentioning Zanella because I like on how like everything has sort of like revolved around everything. And the way she's built this, it's like we are able to separate friendship and work all the time. It's like when it's time for friendship, it's time for friendship. When it's time to work, it's time to work. So the same thing with defining is that we're able to say, hey guys, this is time for fun. This is time to work.